Hey there guys, I am the Six Machine and welcome back to another Warhammer video. So yes, the Tyranid Codex did pretty much completely leak today on Reddit, which I'm sure is going to annoy a lot of people. I personally am not going to go through every single datasheet or rule or change or high fleet or whatever it may be. I'm sure there are plenty of people that will go through it and show it off, but I'm just going to have a chat about a few units that I quite like on a personal level. I haven't actually read all of the leaks or through the codex, and I probably won't. I kind of want to keep a few surprises for myself when the pre-order week previews go up from Warcom, but I did have a very quick look at one of my favourite units in the Tyranid roster, so let's have a quick look now at what has changed for the psychic powerhouses of the Nids, the Zoanthropes. These guys still come in squads of 3 to 6, and for the same 50 points, they've had a few changes to their stat line. They now have a movement of 6 inches instead of 5, so they can get around the board a tiny bit better. Their strength and toughness both have got a bump to 5 instead of 4, which is really nice. And alongside that, they've gained a wound going to 4 from 3, so this is going to really help them to live a little bit longer on the battlefield against enemy light arms fire, like bolters and bolt rifles and Gauss rifles and all that kind of stuff. They did also gain an extra attack going to 2 up from 1, but they don't have a melee weapon profile. They just attack at strength 5, no AP, 1 damage, and funnily enough, they did drop from 4 up weapon skill to 5 up, so yes, you get an extra attack, but now you hit less often. It's a bit of a wash because these guys really don't want to be in combat like ever, so if you are stuck in an ongoing melee with them, having a 5 up weapon skill instead of a 4 up is probably going to be the least of your worries. They do still retain the Synapse and the Shadow in the Warp rules, which are in the Codex, although both of these have changed in the new book. Synapse now lets friendly high fleet units within 6 inches auto pass morale instead of the 12 inches that it currently is, so it does force your army to stack up a little bit more so that your non-Synapse units don't run away. And then Shadow in the Warp, instead of just subtracting 1 from enemy psychic tests within 18 inches, now lets you subtract 1 from the test within 18 inches, but on top of that, when the enemy unit suffers a perils, they take an extra mortal wound on top. So that is potentially 4 mortal wounds, because the perils is D3 mortal wounds, I believe, and this is going to really worry certain armies. This could let you insta-kill things like Orc Weird Boys, or Eldari Warlocks, or Astra Militarum Primaris Psychers, so this is actually quite a big deal. It will mean that some enemy Psychers are going to be genuinely quite afraid of suffering a perils when they are too close to your Psychers. Onto the Zoanthrope's own special rules. They have, as we should have all guessed, lost their 3-up invuln from Warpfield. This does unfortunately drop to a 4-up. I mean, it's still a good invulnerable save, especially when you consider the fact that they have got that improved toughness and that extra wound now. It really was to be expected. I don't think anyone thought that Zoanthropes would keep that 3-up, so I'm personally not super bummed about it. I do think that in general, the boost to toughness and the extra wound has made up for the loss of that 3-up, and you will arguably take longer to kill against those of strength 4 and below 1 damage shots compared to previously, so there is a silver lining in this change at the very least. They also have a rather funky rule called Cybrood Coterie, which means that if you have a Neurothrope in your detachment, you can take a unit of Zoanthropes without using an elite slot. This is actually pretty huge because the elite slot in the new Nid Codex, from what I've seen of the points changes, is pretty spectacular. Apparently Gene Stealers, Lictors, Venomthropes, and even Pyrovores, yes, Pyrovores I've heard, are pretty high contenders for something that you want to be bringing now, so getting a free elite slot essentially is going to be a really useful ability to have. Warp Blast has also had a pretty hefty change, whereas in the current codex it lets you target a unit within 24 inches for smite, and then gives you bonus mortal wounds depending on your squad size, with an extra D3 for units of 4 or 5, or a flat extra 3 if you have 6 Zoanthropes. Now this ability lets you add 1 to casting rolls for smite or for Witchfire powers, so it has a bit more of a blanket overall use instead of just being smite specific. And then on top of that, you do add 1 to the number of mortal wounds suffered by enemies when you smite them, up to 3 depending on how many Zoanthropes you have in the unit. So even a minimum 3-man squad of Zoanthropes is going to be doing D3 plus 3 mortal wounds, or D6 plus 3 on a super smite. And I think overall this is actually much better because you don't need that bigger squad now. You don't need 4 or 5 or 6 Zoanthropes to get that extra bonus, and equally it doesn't go away when you drop down to 3 Zoanthropes. It stays there right until your last model is dead, and even when you only have 1 Zoanthrope left in the unit, you are still going to be doing D3 plus 1 mortal wounds on your smites. So overall, this ability is better not only from a utility standpoint in being able to use it on witchfires, but also from a damage perspective, specifically to smite. Finally, as psykers, they can still cast and deny 1 psychic power, and they know smite and 1 other power from the hive mind discipline. This doesn't improve with squad size anymore. A squad of 6 can still only cast and deny 1, so that is a tiny nerf because it used to go up to 2 full size. But at the end of the day, taking min squads of 3 Zoanthropes and just pumping out an average of 5 mortal wounds from a single smite is a really, really good deal for 150 points in my opinion. So there we go, just a very, very quick look at one of my favourite units from the new codex. They do seem reasonably cheap, pretty damn durable thanks to their new wound and their toughness despite losing the 3-up invuln, and I think overall their psychic potential has got much, much better than before, all whilst being allowed, or not being forced I should say, into taking big 6-man squads to get the most benefit. Now you really can get all the benefits that you need at those minimum 3 strong squads. But what do you think? Do you like these new Zoanthrope rules, and do you think they are better than the current 8th edition versions? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I'll catch you later guys.